So first up this morning, we've been talking about how food is love. And for me, well, at least it is for me and my family. And growing up in an Italian family, the heart of the home was definitely the kitchen, especially my great-grandma's house. That's her in the pink muumuu looking fierce. That's where we all kind of learned to cook. The dish that I'm going to cook for my family and for you today reminds me of the love of my grandma's house. There's my grandma right there. To show how much I love you folks, because I thought I'm going to try to do this, host a show and cook with you, because you know what? That's how we're going to do this today. So let's get started. Please don't let me burn down the studio. Number one, we've already started cooking the garlic and the onions because, that takes a while. So it's basically softened, and I'm getting used to this new range. This is a different range. It's an induction range. So you just want to make sure that you know kind of the heat that you're cooking with and that you're working with. So here we are. We've softened the onions, and we've made the garlic all nice and smelly and fragrant. It smells so good in the studio right now. And this is when we're going to add the rest of our mirepoix. And mirepoix is just a fancy word for onion, carrots, and celery. And by the way, you can buy mirepoix already cut up, ready to go at Trader Joe's and other places. They have it ready to go. We did this today because we're overachieving here. So we are adding the carrots and the celery, and it's really important to add this at the beginning. I know some people think, oh, just add it whenever. No, you got to add it when you're still cooking it, basically in there before you add the tomatoes, before you add the meat, because you want to get it all nice and soft. So this is actually going to take a while. It takes a bit to soften these, just depending on what size you cut. Some people like to cut bigger pieces of veggies, and in that sense, well, you're going to have to wait a little longer. So let's just say for our purposes right now, we let this cook it out. The other thing we are going to add is the tomatoes. But before we do that, my friends, we need wine. If I'm cooking at home, I pour a glass for myself, and then I pour a glass for the pasta. But typically, I add just a quarter cup of wine. I kind of just eyeball it right now. And you want to let that cook off. You want to let that really kind of cook down and mix in with the veggies and the onions and just really get that nice mix going here. And so you can smell it as it cooks off. It adds like a different, richer scent. Now, some people don't add wine. Giada De Laurentiis, she doesn't, I think, add wine to her bolognese, but my family did. And you can add different kinds of wine. So you can add white wine if you want maybe a fruitier kind of flavor in the sauce, or more of acidic flavor with the red wine. I actually go with a Pinot Noir because it's kind of right there in the middle. It's got like a sweetness to it, and it also cooks down really, really well, which is very nice. So once you add the wine and it cooks down, you want to add the tomatoes. And I feel so bad because it's not quite ready to add, but you know what? Once you're cooking it for hours, you can't really mess this up. That is why I, who am not much of a chef, can make this, and my family will eat it, and then they'll be happy about it. And my cousin Dina, she messaged me the other day, and she said her son likes my bolognese better than hers. I mean, those are fighting words in my family, but hey, I'll take a compliment, you know what I mean? So, all right, I'm gonna get this open here. And again, I can stew my own tomatoes. I've done that, but really, we don't have time sometimes, so just grab a gigantic can of tomatoes at the grocery store. This is a great brand, and just dump it right in. And so these are still kind of whole, and what you want to do is you kind of want to smash them in, because you don't really want big, big chunks of tomato when you're enjoying your food, because we're going to be adding so many other things to this. So you want to smash it in and really get it mixing around, and just get it simmering in here. Turn up my thing a little bit, get it simmering, get it to a point where you feel like it's starting to look really good. And then you want to add the spices. Now, with the spices, we'll get to that in a little bit, but first, fresh spices, fresh basil, parsley, that's always the best, but don't fear if you don't have it, you can make your own, keep it in the kitchen whenever you're cooking up your bolognese. So we're going to continue to make this throughout the show today. So good luck to us, right? And let us know what your favorite dish is to make. You can let us know. I've got a post on my Instagram asking you what food you make with love. We are continuing to cook here. We are making my grandma's bolognese recipe. This is all about how food is love, and we are sharing the love. So just before we checked it last, we had added some of the spices, not all, because we ran out of time, quite frankly, to be honest. But We're gonna continue right now. So typically I like to add fresh basil because you know what? Fresh just tastes so good, but if you don't have fresh, it's fine. You can really do anything. So my recipe calls for about 8 or 9 basil leaves. So we'll throw that in there. I did already add some basil, so no worries. I don't have to have it all, right? Also, what we wanna do is we want to add the meat, right? Typically, you can add the meat when you're cooking right after you cook off the wine. So we did the onions and the mirepoix, and then you add the wine. This is regular ground beef. So I like mixing two. So ½ pound of each is what works for me. And depending on how much you're making, you can make more, pound of each, and you can freeze it. By the way, Bolognese freezes beautifully. You can freeze it, I think up to 6 months, I would say, before it starts getting kind of a funky taste. So there we have that. We've added the meat, and now I'm just gonna sprinkle on in the basil. That will cook down kind of a little bit like spinach, but it'll be so, so good when you get that fresh basil in your mouth. All right. We're gonna be checking this throughout the show, so stick around for that. Welcome back. So, well, we have just a couple of minutes left of the show, and I wanted to taste the final product of my grandma's Bolognese. Now, we've been cooking for about an hour. This is a little bit more accelerated than I would typically do because, you know, this takes hours and hours to make a good Bolognese, but I'll taste it now. This tastes really, really fresh. We didn't really add much in the way of anything other than just the vegetables, the meat, and a little bit of the oil that we were cooking everything in. But it's really fresh. I did add some Parmesan just to kind of thicken it up. And if you ever find that your pasta sauce is too runny and you need to thicken it up, you can always add a roux, which is butter and flour kind of whisked together, or cornstarch. But be very careful because when adding anything to your pasta sauce, if you're gonna do flavor adjustments, you wanna make sure you do a little bit at a time. Mine's pretty good right now, but I sometimes, you know what, I kind of cheat a little and use like just a little extra garlic salt. And just to give it a little bit more kick and a little bit more flavor, you can also add some red pepper flakes at the end if you don't feel like it's, you know, robust enough. You want a robust Bolognese, you know what I mean? So there's that. Essentially, it's really, really good to leave it cooking for several hours to let it cook off and let all the flavors mix together. So I'm just gonna leave this here and, you know, hopefully someone at King 5 will turn off the stove. Kidding! Here is the final product though. It is actually beautifully presented, and a little secret. This is actually not my Bolognese. This is our producer, Susie. She made her Bolognese to use as a final product, but I think she really wanted to have a Bolognese off. So we'll have to test and try to see whose is better, but really doesn't matter. It just matters that you have fun cooking with your family together and share the love. We'll be back tomorrow at 11. Have a good day.